propaganda. Keep in mind that Kamala, still to this day, over a month in the race so far, still has zero policies on her website, on her campaign for president's website. No policies. So clearly they don't want the American people to know what the hell she stands for. Remember how these liberals think. Not even liberals, because that does a disservice to people who are free thinking. How these communists and fascists, like, look at Bill Maher and look at how Quentin Tarantino were talking on the show yesterday. They don't really give a damn what she says in these interviews. They're voting for her anyway. Think about how dangerous that really is. So Kamala Harris can give an interview and say she wants to, ship people off to camps, re-education camps, and people like Quentin Tarantino and Bill Maher would vote for her anyway because they don't care what she says in interviews. It's absolutely absurd. But here's what the Democrats are doing here. They're just saying she flip-flopped on all of these things. You understand that, right? It's a bunch of anonymous staffers who aren't putting their names or giving actual direct quotes to the media. They're just saying Kamala Harris switched her position on, say, no tax on tips. Well, Kamala Harris said that herself. But Kamala Harris switched her position on the EV mandate. That's a better example. Kamala Harris is going to build a border wall. That's another good example. Kamala Harris isn't actually quoted saying either of those two things. And the reason for that is that she's not flip-flopped at all. She's going to be able, God forbid, if she ever holds office again or if she wins in November, God forbid, God help us all, but it gives her the ability to say, no, I didn't actually say that. But while we're running down the list, look at how the media talks about no tax on tips when Trump announced it versus no tax on tips when Kamala announces it. And this is, of course, from the great Maze Moore on X. If you're not following Maze Moore, you definitely should, because this dude is an amazing video editor. But check out how the media covers for Comrade Kamala.
You're a waiter, a bartender, a bellman, somebody in the service industry who gets tips for the work you do. Your federal income and payroll tax would conceivably no longer exist. Although looking at the two proposals that were put out this week by House and Senate Republicans, there's actually a little difference. That's the kind of money overall that funds Social Security, Medicare, and other social safety net programs, so they'd take a hit. It's believed if it were to be enacted the way Trump is proposing it, it'd be about a $250 billion hit to federal revenue over the next decade. So the Culinary Workers Union, for example, that organizes a lot of them, says this Trump idea is unrealistic, that they think that their members are smart enough to know the difference between, as they said, real solutions and wild campaign promises from a convicted felon. The Biden campaign kind of scoffs at this idea as well. But it is potentially good politics to at least demonstrate this. Democrats would also turn around and say, you could have done this during the 4 years you were president. You could have joined us in asking that the minimum wage for tipped workers get increased.
Well, how about, you notice that the media doesn't say to Kamala, well, why didn't you do this during the 4 years in office? Just keep that in mind. But go ahead, go on, Ed O'Keefe from CBS.
Which actually would do more over time. Instead, you're having House and Senate Republicans propose pretty thin ideas here. 3 pages from Ted Cruz, 6 pages from Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz. This is actually a great policy debate to see them having, because it...
Now, this is a great policy debate to see them happen. This is this guy at CBS, Ed O'Keefe, talking about Democrats and Kamala, no tax on tips. Listen to the difference.
Speaks to a real dollars and cents concern and an idea that's designed to help save, especially working class people, money. It's a Republican idea that's been out there for several years. The idea that if you are someone who makes a low minimum wage of like $2 and change an hour, but live otherwise on the tips you get from people, which can number far more than that per hour, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on that cash tip, maybe even the credit card tips. It's been floated for years by various Republicans. In early June, when he was campaigning in Las Vegas, in Nevada, a state with the highest number of tipped hourly service workers, he said we should stop taxing people's tips. And a lot of people thought, well, that's crazy. How would you exactly make that happen? Democrats criticized him for it. The Culinary Workers Union, massive popular labor union in that state that can mobilize tens of thousands of voters, also rejected the idea, saying it's not sensical and it would have to be part of other solutions. Well, what did Kamala Harris do Saturday night in Las Vegas but say, I support ending taxes on tips, as well as raising the minimum wage? We were out there, for example, in late June, discussing this with waiters and bartenders who said, yeah, on paper, that's a great idea. It would save me. One woman told me that at the height of her bartending career, she was making about $100,000 a year in tips on top of a base salary. To not have to pay taxes on that would save her conceivably $30,000 a year, which she said would be a down payment on a house.
So you see how this works. I played that first because I want to. Do you see and hear the difference in tone? We're talking about the same damn issue. Trump proposed it first of all, but you see the difference in tone, tenor, how they're optimistic when Kamala Harris proposes something like this. Now, look at how shameless and brazen this flip-flop is from Kamala Harris. And keep in mind, the only reason that they're able to get away with this, these lies are because the media allows them to.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest.
To get your free definitive gold guide and get started learning more about investing in gold and protecting your retirement from uncertain times, visit treasureandtrust.com now. Fill out the basic contact form and a member of the team will be in touch. Again, that's treasureandtrust.com or call 855-625-7760.